Hi, everyone. So we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining. So again, this training will be recorded and it's going to be sent out to all staff. It is required that all staff do this training every year. This is the cacfp, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, cacfp Basics and Monitoring Training. And then, so we'll do this training first, and then the second training will be on civil rights. Okay, just bear with me while I figure out these controls. Okay, so the topics that we're going to cover include the program basics, mealtime, meal components, reimbursement, creditable meals, meal types, family style, allergies, monitoring, civil rights, disallowances, enrollment forms, infant food and formula forms, as well as inventory. Okay, so the basics. So what is cacfp? So it stands for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. It's federally funded. It allows us to receive reimbursement for the meals that we provide in our early learning centers. They have specific rules and requirements that we're required to follow. So the purpose of it is to provide meals for reimbursement for serving nutritious meals and snacks to eligible participants in the child care centers, daycare homes, Head Start programs like ours, after-school programs, emergency homeless shelters, and adult daycare centers. So there's a lot of different types of programs in the cacfp, but we do the Head Start program. So there are 6 different meal types. There's breakfast, AM snack, lunch, PM snack, dinner, and evening snack. And we do breakfast, lunch, and PM snack. So our meal times, we have breakfast from 8:30 to 9:30. We have lunch from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we have our PM snack from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And we have to serve meals within these times. The only exception is Blue, that are 30 minutes later than everyone else because of just the way their school runs. That they set with me before making those changes. So if there's ever a change that needs to be made, you just need to let me know beforehand so I can report it to OSSI. So it's got to be approved first. So meal components. There are 5 components. There's the grains, which includes bread, cereals, pastas, and rice. There's fruits, vegetables, meat alternatives such as cheese, yogurt, beans, and eggs. There's milk, which includes formula, breast milk, whole milk, 1%, skim, and soy. And just a little side note, the potato can be counted as a vegetable, and beans can be counted as both a meat alternative or a vegetable. Okay, so reimbursement. So we can either be reimbursed for 2 meals and 1 snack or 2 snacks and 1 meal. And we do the 2 meals and 1 snack. So there's breakfast, lunch, and PM snack. There has to be 2 hours between each meal. So that's why we have to stick to the meal time. And we also get additional reimbursement back from Local 5, which is the farmers market program that we're doing. That we track on the meal count under Local 5. So meal count should reflect number of meals served, and it must be done at point of service. So when the meals are being served, we have to write down the number of children that are being served and that are eating. And it must match what is entered in Child Plus. So here we have an example. Blue, this is their meal count. They do it online, which is really nice on Excel because it just auto-calculates their meal count at the end. So, and you see on the far right, they've got their Local 5, which is all 0 because we're not receiving the Local 5 right now, but it will pick back up in April. So creditable meals for breakfast. So you have to have 3 components for breakfast. That includes a grain, a fruit and vegetable, and milk. I'm sorry, fruit or vegetable and milk. So an example would be oatmeal, pineapple, and milk. All right, so we have a scenario here, and I'm going to open up the polling so you guys can make a selection. So you notice that the menu says pancakes, strawberries, and milk, but you don't have any strawberries left. So what are you going to do? Let me open the poll. So you should be seeing questions here. I'm not really sure what it looks like on your end, but hopefully you see these. So you're only going to be answering question 1 right now. And we'll give a few minutes. Looks like almost everyone has answered so far. Okay, I'll just give it like 1 more minute and then I'll close it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the poll now. Okay, awesome. So most everyone selected the make a substitution. Perfect. So yes, the correct answer is you will need to make an appropriate substitution such as serving blueberries in its place. And you're also going to need to record the change on the menu. Okay, so for lunch. Lunch needs to contain 5 components. So that includes a grain such as rice, pasta, or bread, a meat or a meat alternative, fruits, vegetables, and milk. So an example of a complete lunch would be baked chicken with rice, sweet peas, and grapes, and milk on the side. And of course, we're always going to make everything developmentally appropriate, so we're going to cut down those grapes and dice them up so we can prevent choking hazards. 100% juice cannot be served at meals, only at snacks and once per day. Okay, so we have another scenario here. So you notice when opening the hot holding containers for lunch that the vegetables are missing. What do you do? I'm going to open up the polling, and you're going to answer question 2. Oh, I guess it's still, the polling is still open. Let me try. Okay. Ms. Walker, do you see the polling open still?
On the right-hand side?
Yeah, like questions?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so everyone can poll in for question 2. Hello?
They want to click on it.
Are you able to poll? Is it working?
No.
Okay, let me try to fix it. Give me one sec. Okay. So you guys should all see the poll open now, hopefully. Let's see if it's working. So you'll be answering question 2. Okay, we're going to give it just another minute. So this is question number 2. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Okay, so majority chose the correct answer. So what you want to do is let your center director or nutritionist know right away. Lunch has to have all components, so an emergency food will need to be used in its place. All right, so moving on to snacks. So snacks must include 2 of the food categories. Milk will not be creditable if juice is being served as a component. So an example would be crackers and 100% apple juice or unsweetened cold cereal with milk. So you can't do apple juice with milk. You have to have milk with something else. It's not a fluid. Okay. So milk type. So milk must be offered served at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we don't do dinner. Children 2 years and older need 1% milk, and children under 2 years old need full milk. So you have to have children in both age. If you have children in both age groups, you must have both kinds of milk to serve. cacfp approved soy milk may be served if there's a parent or doctor written request, and flavored milk is only allowed for children 6 and up. All right, so we have another scenario here. So when preparing to serve breakfast, you notice that there's not enough 1% milk left for all of the children. What do you do? And let me open the polling back up. Okay. All right, so the polling is not really working right now, so I'm just going to answer the question. Okay, so let the person in charge know right away and let the nutritionist know. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Oh, no, that's right. Sorry, guys. Okay, so you want to serve emergency milk if it's too close to the meal service time and the caterer cannot send more milk in time for service. So moving on to family style. So family style is required at all meals. Food needs to be placed on the table. Mealtimes are pleasant, nurturing experiences for the children, parents, and staff. Meals are served family style, which means that The teachers and the kids, they all eat together. They help serve themselves. The teachers can help if they have difficulty doing that. So children are actively involved in meal service, including setting tables, serving themselves, and choosing what food items and amounts they want, cleaning up, and conversing with other children and adults. So during this time, you can do activities with the kids, talk about the food, and get their appetites going. Teachers sit with small groups of children. They model healthy eating habits and a nurturing, unhurried mealtime. So we don't want to rush the kids. Adults are important models for children and therefore avoid behaviors in front of children that do not promote a healthy lifestyle. So we want to make sure we're not doing any negative talking during the mealtime and that we're encouraging the children to eat. So we want to provide at least a minimum amount of food of each component and portion size on the table for all meals. So we do this by using the measuring cup. Children may be served a bigger portion than the minimum required. We must serve the minimum. And if you're not sure of the minimum, you can look at the menu and see the serving sizes on there. So we also want to make water available throughout the day and during meals. And we want to ensure food safety procedures are being followed. So moving on to soy milk. So soy milk notification forms have to be signed by the parent if they're requesting a soy milk. And a medical substitution form is also required to be signed by a doctor if a substitution is requested. We need to know, it has to indicate that the soy milk is being requested and if there's any additional requests being made. So allergies. We want to look out for allergies always. This includes swollen lips, tongue, or eyes, hives, rash, or itchy skin, nausea, cramping, vomiting, diarrhea, trouble swallowing, nasal congestion, deep cough, wheezing, pale or blue skin color, weak pulse. These are more serious signs. Of course, you want to report allergies to the person in charge right away, or you want to call 911 for severe reactions. So we have the medical substitution form for allergies and special dietary requests. Those should be given to the parent to take to the doctor to be filled out and signed. So these are for special dietary restrictions, food allergies. Sorry, guys, give me one sec. For allergies?
Yes, the substitution thing.
Okay.
Somebody called yesterday.
About it?
Yeah, don't they still need to form out there?
Yeah, always. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry everyone. So again, this form is required for special diets, dietary restrictions, food allergies, foods to be substituted, and changes in texture. So anytime there's any special requests regarding meals, we need this form. And you can pretty much put anything on here. As you can see on the right, special diets, even texture modifications if we need to puree the food or dice the food up more than normal, we would put it on here. So please always inform parents you need this form with any condition regarding eating in the center. So moving on to monitoring. So why do we monitor? It is required by cacfp to ensure compliance with meal patterns, record keeping, and other program requirements. So 3 unannounced visits are required every year, and at least one meal has to be observed, but usually during monitoring, they're always looking at your meal, and I'm doing the same as well. A monitor will ask to see your cacfp menus. They're going to look to make sure that you're posting these menus. You must have records updated at all times. During inspections, They'll document the ages of the children, the food served, the number of children, and ensure that your paperwork and documentation is reflecting the correct numbers. So you always have to make sure everything's updated and correct. And again, you never know when monitoring is going to occur, so that's why you always want things up to date always. So during the monitoring, the meals you're serving are going to be monitored. If the monitor arrives after the children have eaten, they may ask to see leftovers or even dirty dishes. Fridge, freezer will be checked to make sure that you have the correct milk and that the temperatures are correct. They'll check for health and safety violations. They'll check to see if hands are being washed before eating and after eating. They'll look out to see how clean your kitchen is, if you have any pests or rodents. They'll also look for the sign-in sheet from the rodent inspector. Food stored near toxic chemicals or unsafe materials. They're also going to be making sure that children are being offered the correct milk type, which is very important. So we want to also make sure that the right portions are being served to the kids as well, that at least the minimum is being served. So other things they look out for is Local 5. They're going to see if you're following that properly, if you're serving the farmer's market produce at lunch and you're saving that fruit or vegetable for snack. They're also going to make sure that you're documenting on the meal count properly. They'll look out to see if you're doing family style, and they'll look at your infant feeding charts to make sure that those are being documented properly. They'll also look at the...
Hello, thank you for calling Blue Alert. I'm Mrs. Mills speaking to Canal.
Okay, someone is unmuted. Let me mute everybody. Sorry guys, give me a sec. Okay. Hopefully everyone's muted now. Okay. Okay, so they're going to make sure that you're serving your meals at the correct meal service time. They'll check the food handler certifications to make sure that they're not expired. And they're also going to be looking out to make sure that you're writing down substitutions. So civil rights. The U.S. Constitution and Acts of Congress grant the right to fair and equal protection of the laws and freedom from discrimination to all participants of cacfp. So this includes you, the child care provider, as well as the children in your care who receive meals and snacks. All cacfp participants must be treated equally without regard to their race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. So basically, please do not discriminate against anyone and treat everybody with respect. So disallowances. A disallowance means that you have not been reimbursed. And this can happen if you're not following the guidelines and if you're not documenting properly. So you may be reimbursed if the cacfp guidelines, you may not be reimbursed if the cacfp guidelines are not followed. By not keeping menus and attendance up to date, not serving creditable meals or snacks, and having incomplete infant feeding charts, or serving the wrong milk type for the wrong ages. So how do we prevent disallowances? We always want to keep records up to date. Record meal counts at point of service. Keep attendance up to date. Always serve a complete, creditable meal. And serve the appropriate milk according to age. And if you're unsure, please ask somebody. So here we have an example of an infant feeding chart that was not completed correctly. So you see the grain is missing there for the breakfast, and at snack as well. If OSCE looked at these charts, they would say, what happened? Was it not served? They're going to see this, and immediately we would be fined for this. This would result in a disallowance. So it's really important that everything is documented properly. If the child doesn't eat, then if you serve the full meal and they don't eat, you would just put a no there. There's no reason not to fill it out. So again, all components must be served for creditable meals. So we always have to serve each component on these feeding charts. So here we have an example of a properly filled out feeding chart. It's really clear. They have everything listed on here. All components were served. The snack, you can see the child left early, so they indicated that, as well as on the 5th, February 5th, they put in that the child came in late. So obviously we'll see this and say, okay, it's not blank. We know what happened. The child wasn't there. It makes sense. So you want to make sure that you're documenting literally everything. So we have a scenario here. So let's say that the baby did not eat the apples at snack that was served to him. Will he still be counted in the meal count? So on the right-hand side, you'll see I myself filled in the no instead of a yes right there, just for this as an example. So let's say that we did serve the apples for a snack for the baby, the Gerber's apples, but they actually didn't eat the apples. Would they still be counted? And I was going to open up the poll, but we're having some trouble there, so we're just going to move on to the answer. So yes, the baby would still be counted in the meal count. All components must be served for a credible meal. So we would still count the meal because it was at least offered to the baby. Even though the baby didn't eat the apples, maybe they ate before, they just were not hungry at that moment and did not eat the apples, we're still going to count the baby because we still offered it to them. So another scenario here. The toddlers are having animal crackers and pears for snack. You have a 10-month-old that is eating table food. So what would you serve to the infant for snack for a creditable meal? And this gets a little tricky because we do have a lot of babies that go on table food, and a lot of teachers will think that all of a sudden the infant meal pattern does not apply to them and that they can follow fully the toddler meal pattern. So the baby can have the animal crackers and the pears, but they would also need formula in addition for a creditable meal. Toddlers only need 2 components for a snack, but babies always need 3 components for every meal. So the baby's meal would still need to be documented on the infant feeding chart. So child enrollment form. Every subsidized child in your center needs a completed parent-signed and dated enrollment form to be eligible. So our 12 centers do not need to do these forms anymore. This only applies to Eagle. So everyone else disregard this form. We now do these through Carmen and through Chadflex. So enrollment forms must be sent to me before the monthly claim is submitted. This is only for Eagle. Infant food and formula notification form. So every infant needs an infant formula and food notification form. Please help parents fill out this form properly. One thing I notice that often happens is everything on the top will be filled out, but they will forget to fill in the formula right here. Oops, sorry.
Okay, there we go.
You guys, please don't unmute yourselves. Okay. Okay, guys. All right, everyone is muted. Okay, so we left off here. So please help parents fill out these forms. Just remind them that, or explain to them that we do have to indicate which formula, which goes right here. The formula type, so say Similac Advanced, it would be written right here. And if they're going to accept our formula, they would need to circle the accept and accept all foods if they're going to have the Gerbers and the cereals and things like that at 6 months. And they would just need to sign. And anytime an infant comes into an infant joins the, is enrolled, they would need to fill out this form, and it would need to be sent to me in order to provide that formula. Okay, so inventory. This is the last slide, by the way. Inventory lists should be submitted to me on time. It's every 2 weeks. There's a schedule that I sent out. Expiration dates must be checked, especially for emergency food. When expiration is upcoming, please use the item. Post a page on the cabinet with the list of items and expiration dates to monitor. This is really helpful, and I know it works at a lot of centers to have a page with all your dates on it to kind of keep track of things. Just have it posted on your cabinet so you don't have to keep opening and looking at the dates. If you have items on hand that is no longer needed, please let me know so that we can return the items for another center to use. So we want to really try to avoid food waste. Orders must always be put in the INET for OSCE regulations. If it doesn't work, please contact IT. Please, you guys, do not send me emails with food orders you need, because it's really hard to track and it needs to be put on INET. We have to have a trail of food being ordered. So please try to work with IT to get those issues resolved. And let me know if for some reason they're not helping, and I'll try to reach out to them as well. So that is it as far as cacfp basics. If you guys have any questions about this training, please feel free to email me or give me a call. I'm going to quickly go through the civil rights training because that is another requirement by OSCE. It will go by fast, so please bear with me. All right, percent. Okay, so the objectives today, we're gonna talk about discrimination. So we'll talk about what is considered discrimination, how to avoid discriminating against any person, and how to respond to and submit a civil rights complaint. Okay, so a little bit of background. Signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964, the Civil Rights Act outlawed discrimination based on race, national origin, and color. He later opened the food program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program that we participate in, which allowed children to be enrolled into approved daycare centers, settlement houses, and recreation centers to receive nutritious meals. With all food services under one federal agency, there could be uniform standards as to nutrition, sanitation, management of funds, and guidance to guarantee program continuity. So what are civil rights? Civil rights refers to the rights of personal liberty guaranteed by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. It ensures fair and equitable treatment of all customers and employees. So the concepts, we're going to talk about stereotyping, which is a preconceived belief or oversimplified generalization about a particular group. I'm sure we've all experienced this at some point. There's prejudice, which is a set of rigid and unfavorable attitudes toward a particular group that is formed without considering facts. And then there's discrimination, which is the practice of treating people differently because of how we have grouped them in our minds according to our prejudices. So, of course, we never want to be doing any of these kinds of things, especially not in our centers. So the goals of civil rights is to eliminate barriers to program benefits, provide equal treatment to all, explain rights and responsibilities, and show respect and dignity to all. There's 6 protected classes. There's race, color, national origin, age, sex, and disability. And, of course, discrimination is never allowed in the cacfp. So this video clip is not going to work, of course. Okay, sorry about that. So our responsibility is to collect and use of racial ethnic data. We do that through the enrollment form, public notification system. That's through the letters, signed by Mr. Jones in the folders. It's also a responsibility to ensure equal access to programs, reasonable accommodation of persons with disabilities, and reasonable accommodation language assistance. And we also need to ensure that all of our participants know of the complaint procedures, and that is also listed on the enrollment form. So collection and use of racial ethnic data. So why is it important to collect accurate civil rights information in a cacfp? So we have to collect the racial and ethnicity of all children because it's required by cacfp. And every year we have to report those numbers to OSSI. So it helps with statistics and research. So where do we collect race and ethnicity info? We do that on the back of the enrollment form. We also do it in Child Plus. So why is the non-discrimination statement important? The purpose of the system is to inform applicants that they will be treated equally, fairly, without discrimination. It's the basis for non-discrimination for any reason, and again, it's not allowed in the cacfp. So we're going to have a little scenario here. So a family does not want to identify their race or ethnic background on the household income statement or other form used by the center to collect racial ethnic data. So say on the enrollment form they say they don't want to fill it out, what should you do? So staff should explain to the families that identification is voluntary and that they are not required to furnish information on their race or ethnicity. When an applicant or participant does not provide this information, the data collector must, through visual observation, make the racial ethnic determination. And staff can explain that the data is strictly for statistical purposes and won't be used in any other way. So what USDA cacfp public notification systems are currently in place at UPO? So we have these two posters that should be posted in your center, the And Justice for All and the Building for the Future. And it's good to have them in both English and Spanish. If you do not have one of these posters, please let me know and I can give you either a copy or I'll send you a poster. So what it entails is that it basically provides a message of equal opportunity, and yeah. So accommodating people with disabilities. So we have to provide accommodations for anyone with a disability. This includes functions such as caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing, learning, and working. So we have to make accommodations. Meal pattern substitutions are required to be made for disabled individuals as defined above, and they must be documented by a licensed physician. So a doctor's note, we need a doctor's note for any kind of request. So why is it important to provide language assistance? So we are required to provide this service for limited English proficiency, potentially eligible persons, applications, and participants. There's translators available services, so yeah, we have to provide that. So requirements. So the number and proportion of LEP persons served or encountered in eligible populations. Let's see. Frequency of LEP persons. Nature and importance of program, activity, or service. And resources available and cost. Shortage of resource does not eliminate this requirement. So we always need to provide language assistance no matter what. So why are compliance reviews important? We need to check for non-discrimination and ensure civil rights requirements are being followed. So review techniques. So the regional office review state agencies, and the state agencies, like OSSI, review us. The state agency must annually review at least a third of all institutions. Independent centers and sponsoring organizations of 1 to 100 facilities must be reviewed every 3 years. So they review us to make sure that we're following, that we're not discriminating and we're following procedures. So if there's a non-compliance, they're going to require a corrective action plan, which will in turn result in compliance. So failure to comply can result in loss of federal assistance from all federal sources. And the point of the corrective action plan is for conflict resolution. So it's been established by studies that organizations that provide training on conflict resolution and customer service are more sensitive to civil rights issues and compliance. So that's why we do these trainings, to just ensure that we are following regulations. The complaint procedures are listed on the enrollment form. It has to have the name, address, and telephone number or email of the person making the complaint, the specific location, name of the agency, and the nature of the incident, the basis on which the complaint or discrimination exists, the names, telephone numbers, titles, and addresses of witnesses, and the dates during which the alleged discriminatory actions took place. And these need to be either mailed, emailed, or filed online on that website. So complaint procedure, a center is encouraged to discuss the civil rights issue with the person who has filed the complaint in efforts to resolve the problem. Whether or not the issue is resolved at the center level, a person alleging discrimination has the right to file a complaint within 180 days of the discriminatory action. They have 180 days to submit a formal complaint. It's a long time. And we're not going to go through this whole thing, but this here is the complaint procedure and timeline. And you can clearly see it takes a really long time for a complaint to go through. So I guess that's why they give you the 180 days. Okay, so equal access. A center must provide equal access to cacfp benefits to all eligible participants, regardless of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. So we've got another scenario here. So a child care center does not provide infant foods and or formula to infants in their care and requires parents to supply these items. Is this a civil rights issue? Yes. This is a civil rights issue. All children who attend the center must be provided equal access to the benefits of the cacfp. Infant formula and food must be offered to infants at the center, and parents cannot be asked or required to supply these items. However, the only case we can deny an item is if it is financially too large for us to purchase. That is the only reason. That is the only reason we are not allowed, and that's things like ready to feed, the formulas, the liquid, and things like that. Situation 2. Children whose first language is Spanish are asked to sit together at the Spanish-speaking table. Is this a civil rights problem? Yes. So that is segregating, or separating children who share a particular characteristic into groups who would be considered a civil rights issue and discrimination based on the protected class of origin. So we do not want to ever separate kids based off of their race, off of language they speak, or gender, whatever. So we always want to ensure we follow good customer service, be patient, be polite, avoid sarcasm, be empathetic, Understand that people may not know the rules or understand how programs work. Be patient with them. They may feel uncomfortable coming to ask for help. They also may be going through issues at home. So smile when appropriate, make people feel welcome and valued, explain the policies, and let them know you will get in trouble if you do anything that violates the rules. Don't be afraid to apologize, and don't feel you need to have the last word. So always be professional. And that is it. Thank you, guys. Again, I'm going to be sending out the trainings and as well as a quiz, because every staff is required to have watch this. So you will be receiving an email from me soon so that you can disperse with your staff.